listening to the RMPodcast, the official podcast of Red Moon Productions. Here are your hosts, Brandon Davidson, Keith Cheatham, and Shaun Sebastian. Enjoy.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Red Moon Podcast. Live every single Tuesday night right here on all your favorite social media networks. And you can catch the audio downloadable version on Thursdays at midnight. I'm one of your hosts, Brandon Davidson, alongside our normal new host,
Shaun Sebastian.
And Keith Cheatham, Mr. Cheatham. I don't know, I'm just like... It still surprises me every time you say it.
You know what doesn't surprise me?
What?
This is not working again. Oh my god.
Every week.
Look at it. The stream deck is not working.
I'm blaming it on the season. It's Halloween. The goblins are loose. They're running around.
Yeah.
They've adorned our studio here. One left its hand.
Little
just sitting there crawling on the...
and goblins and creepy
I'm
things.
telling you, it just gets me. And sometimes I crack the door open and I just peek in and I just hear a little... And then, something doesn't work.
Huh.
It's just crazy. I don't know what it is, guys. Yeah. I try to do my best to keep them out of here, but they just do their own thing.
Gremlins in the machines, right?
That's what it is.
Yep.
You don't feed them after midnight. I don't even feed them.
Gosh dang,
Foreign cars. Gremlins in the machines. That's right.
Hey, I'm telling you, man, my Honda's still going. Keep it going, guys. Keep it going. I love my... It should be up.
It's working! It's working!
It's working.
That's right. Hey. Oh, damn. I missed the quote.
I was like, I was waiting. I was waiting.
Hey,
I don't think I pushed that
left you hanging.
Wow.
No, I was actually going to do an Anchorman quote.
Oh.
It was the, did he say 70% of the time it works every time?
60% of the time.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why I didn't say it.
There it is.
I didn't want to
Sex Panther.
Yeah, Sex Panther. 60% of the time, it works every time.
No, we do. Again, thank you, Shaun, for 3D printing these wonderful
these
decorations that we're going to have all season long. Continuing our zombie reviews.
Zombies. Zombie.
Zombie
Oh.
in my head.
I just think of Zack Snyder's terrible zombie movie every time I hear that now.
Yeah.
I think of Andy from The Office.
Head. Yeah.
Andy from The
Yeah.
Office, he sang that. But no, we do. We got a great show planned. As you could tell by our thumbnail image, if you're on Rumble. YouTube sometimes, I don't know why, but I think it's because
YouTube does.
We go through Restream, and I don't think Restream, I need to look into this. I don't know if they allow me to post a thumbnail image that will actually showcase, because I created beforehand, because we know what the headlines are and everything. But yeah, we did not go see the big one on the block this week.
Yeah, Terrifier 3.
Terrifier 3. Hit theaters.
It swept the box office.
What do you mean swept it?
Swept it.
What does that mean?
Swept it. It just came in number one.
Okay, there we go.
It swept the floor with all the other movies.
It didn't honestly make a lot of money. It just made more than all the other movies that didn't make any money.
And,
and it's really bad, so that's saying a lot.
Really?
Because
have you seen it?
Yeah.
Okay, did you watch the other two? Terrifier 1 and 2?
We reviewed the first one.
Yeah.
And it was stupid too. But
Yeah.
But I mean, the whole point of these films, I thought, was the gore and the shock
it
factor.
is. Yeah.
It's just,
And each one is just much
At one
worse.
point in Terrifier 3, the Terrifier is killing another person, and he creates a girlfriend. And his girlfriend masturbates with a piece of glass while he's killing another person.
So cutting...
She cuts in her...
Okay.
Yeah, that's the whole appeal, is that
Yes.
it tries to be as graphic as it can be. Like
It sounds like borderline, like not without being a snuff film, what snuff films would include.
Yeah.
If they obviously, snuff films, the fact is they're real.
And it's just I think the worst part about it though is like it is very, very gory, but it's so
fake
looking. Like it's to the point where it doesn't even. I don't know how people are getting sick and walking out of the theater. I think that's just
that's
publicity.
marketing.
I
Yeah.
think it is.
Yeah.
But there's not. If you look at it, it's just like okay, it looks like some Jello and spaghetti, and like it doesn't even look real enough to make you.
That to me is why
Passion of the Christ looks freaking real.
Right.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
that's
and it's visceral because of the reality of what is surrounding it.
yeah.
And
true.
and I think
I
about
mean,
that.
even if you were coming in without a belief in Christ and you saw the scene where they're lashing his back,
yes.
and it's sticking into his ribs and pulling chunks of flesh off, like that looked absolutely
Yes.
real.
Well, even to juxtapose that against something completely secular, and the one we're kind of criticizing, Joker, the first Joker, there are scenes in that movie that are disturbing from the perspective of how he kills, and it seems so real in the way that it's shot in film. I mean, that's why number 2 was such a disappointment.
Yeah.
But number 1, there are moments where Arthur Fleck truly loses his mind, and it's still done in a cinematic way, but it seems like a camera was just dropped into a real-world setting, and you're watching something, again, stuff that I see pop up on my X feed or on Facebook that you don't want, and it's like, warning, graphic content, you
Yeah.
don't have a chance to look away.
Yeah.
Because they just like pop
Somebody
it up
getting ran over by a
immediately.
train or
right,
something.
right.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh gosh, like it catches you off guard. But yeah, to me, Terrifier is akin to what we grew up with Saw. Like
No,
each
Saw is way better.
Because Saw actually has plot and is meant to be a movie. Like,
okay, fair enough. Maybe not.
It's meant to be a movie.
Well, I mean, Terrifier is
Yeah.
a movie, but I just feel like I feel like its only purpose is that gore. It's
Yeah.
like it's the trying to be
But
the
that's
shock
my thing.
factor.
Like, okay, but the thing with Saw,
Yeah.
and granted, we gave Saw 10
Yeah.
a favorable
Yeah,
review.
yeah,
It was a
yeah.
good movie. And it's not a one-to-one comparison, but each one of those films was to ratchet
they
up
try to-
the
yes. Mm-hmm.
body horror and what crazy contraptions
torture
they could.
porn.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Which is why we reviewed a lot of those last year.
Mm-hmm.
But this year we stuck with zombie flicks. And we didn't go see Terrifier 3 because we didn't want to review Terrifier 3 and only have Terrifier 1 and forget about the second one.
Yeah.
And if they had come out with Terrifier 4 in the same time, we would have just made that our theme and done all of them.
Well, maybe next year, but we already have a pretty good one, I think, for next year already. So,
Well, I mean, but we already know they're definitely going to be making a Terrifier 4.
I'm sure.
I mean, after the success of this one and it trouncing Joker 2.
It was I guess I don't know the right word, but there was something about it that was intriguing at the time. But after seeing the first one, and then just like again the marketing of people will at this point, like I just no longer care. Like there was a certain kind of uniqueness to it that I was like, oh, this is getting
like
popular.
Paranormal
Yeah,
Activity.
Yeah.
Each one of those, every time they marketed it, it was always like, oh my gosh, they'd show the camera of in the theater with all the people.
Yes,
like
yeah.
reactions.
And at least with those, I'd say the original, like the first 3, that make a good story. With Terrifier, it's just like all you're getting isn't story, acting, or anything other than just the pulp horror gore.
100%.
So,
But what was our second zombie film pick? What did we review? We went a different route than Terrifier 3. Instead of shock horror, body horror, we went with humor and laughter. Shaun of the Dead. And not S-E-A-N.
no.
We explained that last
The
time.
weird British spell.
Yeah.
It's not even
S-H-A-U-N.
Shaun.
Yeah.
Shaun.
I've seen S-H-A-W-N, but S-H-A-U-N is definitely that's not how Americans spell Shaun in any
It's
capacity.
like color with the U.
Yeah.
Hello.
Color. Yeah.
Color.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or labor. Yeah.
Label.
They like adding the U in there.
Labor.
Brits.
I ain't gonna lie. Sometimes I do too, just to be fancy.
I have not even thinking about it and realized that's the British standard way of spelling
hey,
something.
but you know what?
I don't even know where do you even pick that? Like I guess
Tomato,
because
tomato.
I've seen it enough or read or seen. Yeah, I don't.
Tomato.
Tomato.
Yeah.
All right.
Would you like your tomatoes?
Let's get into the review. What did we think of this? Well, it's safe to say it's a classic now. It's been 20 plus years.
Yeah.
Since this released. Early
It's weird
2000s.
to think of that way, but yeah, it's. I mean,
it's odd to think that this was really like where Simon Pegg and
Edgar Wright.
Yeah, and
yes.
Edgar Wright.
It's springboarded, but like I mean,
crazy.
they both had like they'd done the British show Spaced before this together, which is where they came up with the idea for this while working on that. And this was like Edgar Wright's second film that he ever made, but the first commercially released one. So,
Without further
It's
ado,
just- yeah.
here is our review of Shaun of the Dead. The following is a review by Keith Cheatham. It's week 2 of our zombie Halloween reviews, and as the nights grow colder and the dark gets creepier, Halloween, however, isn't all about the scares. After all, there must be treats with the tricks. So this week's zombie film isn't about the horror so much as the laughs. Directed by Edgar Wright and co-written by him and Simon Pegg, who stars, Shaun of the Dead launched both into stardom. A quirky British comedy that cleverly satirized the zombie genre while showing love to it as well. Shaun of the Dead is full of homages and Easter eggs to zombie films throughout the years, including Romero's Living Dead series, as well as the film we reviewed last week, 28 Days Later. Shaun of the Dead is more than just a clever satire, however. It works well as a zombie film in and of itself while making fun of standard tropes. Driven by its characters led by Pegg as Shaun, his best friend Ed, played by Nick Frost, and his girlfriend Liz, played by Kate Ashfield. Character arcs and growth are smart and well done, forming a funny rom-com plopped directly into a zombie film. The zombies serve as the catalyst for Shaun's character growth. It creates clever commentary as Shaun starts out with his zombie-like existence, performing his mundane day-to-day routine on autopilot as life passes him by. Wright and Pegg sprinkle plenty of character depth and emotional moments into the blood and comedy. Wright, who would continue to develop his directorial style, shows early use of his techniques in storytelling that would become staples throughout his career. Clever scenes of Shaun's morning routine before the outbreak juxtaposed against the same routine after the outbreak, as Shaun walks the same route he does daily, completely oblivious to the zombies around him. Subtle differences on top of obvious ones, such as Shaun choosing a Diet Coke over a regular one after a spat with his girlfriend, make good use of show don't tell. While well set up gags, such as Ed's bad habit of leaving the front door open, make use of clever foreshadowing, throw in an action set piece against the backdrop of Queen's Don't Stop Me Now, and it's clear this is definitely an Edgar Wright film, even if an early one. Fun, funny, with plenty of heart, Shaun of the Dead is the slacker comedy of the deadbeat boyfriend who learns to take agency of his life, become a man, and win the girl, all while fighting zombies. It's a clever film made by fans of zombie movies that will appeal to those looking for a laugh or the undead. I give Shaun of the Dead 3 out of 4 stars. Wow. All right. 3 out of 4.
It's 2 in a row,
Yeah.
man.
3 out of 4 stars for 28 Days Later, and now 3 out of 4 for Shaun of the Dead.
It's almost like they knew how to make good movies back then.
I mean, surprise.
Both early 2000s. So
Yeah. And I mean, look, you could just say, "Oh, well, this is your generation and what you grew up with." No, this
We've
surprisingly
given bad reviews to old movies in the past.
Oh yeah,
too, so yeah.
Definitely, especially when we went back and did all like the early best picture winner reviews. No doubt there were some bombs in there. Oh gosh, what was Cimarron?
Cimarron.
Yes. But no, this actually, what I was mostly surprised with was where we criticized 28 Days Later last week regarding, the filming techniques not holding up as well, even though Danny Boyle was trying some cutting edge things on an indie budget. Hey, bravo, putting one out there for the homies in terms of like trying to get started. This one actually surprisingly holds up well in the opposite way of, an indie flick that I think could have gone one of two ways and surprisingly still holds up very well, not only production quality wise. There were a few things where I was like, okay, he definitely he's taking swats at the zombies. He's not hitting them on the head.
Yeah. There's a couple things that I was like,
The HD resolution really shows it. But then there's other like really good practical effects that are put to great use. The classic Edgar Wright, throwing in the music, whether it's the nod with Queen and the bar scene,
that was great.
or even them throwing the records and,
I
they're
love
going.
the records thing.
I mean, immediately you're like, he put that in there to showcase how well versed he is in music and how much of a love he uses.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it just entertaining all around. Laughed hysterically, like you had said, and you brought it up in the review, but also we were talking about it a little bit during the review. I love that. I mean, talk about the antithesis of just not being woke.
Yeah.
I mean, before woke was a thing, you actually have a story where the guy is not he is a pushover, and he overcomes those obstacles when he faces what seems like insurmountable odds to be the hero we need him to be and to rise to the occasion. And it was like, you felt great cheering for Shaun throughout the movie.
And he puts forth the effort to change, not just because it's an apocalypse. I mean, yes, that's kind of the catalyst where he has to, but at the same time, it's like he recognizes that his old lifestyle was wrong and that he was just being a pushover and this and that. So, I mean, it's this admittance of, I need to be better, and then he becomes better, and then just certain. It's a comedy for sure, but even like certain scenes, like the argument he gets into with I forget.
Nick Frost, his
character,
friend?
yeah,
Yes.
I forget his name.
Loved it.
But that argument at the beginning when he's basically telling him like, "Look, you are responsible for your crap, and I can't let you just drag me down." And then, but even like him confronting Bill Nye or him confronting his girlfriend's roommates, like there's just certain moments throughout each part of the film where like he kind of grows a little bit better.
Yeah, he grows,
and I
yeah.
loved each of those moments where he does like wake up and realize, no, you all are idiots. You're an idiot, and I need to no longer be an idiot.
Well, and even when he's getting kind of bombarded from that angle, whether it's because, like I said, there was an exchange with his girlfriend where she points out like these things didn't happen until you were kind of settled into a relationship, and I think that's again a universal message you could have for relationships in general. You get comfortable enough that you start slacking off.
Yeah.
You let yourself go. You let certain things become just the norm, and then you kind of forget the special things about your relationship, the romance. You kind of let it die. And I think she was trying to hold him accountable and give him a chance. And then in the midst of all this happening, of course, they break up. But throughout the movie, she even like basically he kind of has a purpose of, I want to prove to you that I can save you. And she's like, if that's what this is about, like don't hold your breath.
Yeah.
And then the moment he lets go of that being his main motivation, and then it is just about survival, is the moment that they naturally rekindle their flame, and she realizes the spark she had for him in the first place. And that organically happens throughout the movie, and it's done so, and again, a humorous way, but to an extent that is believable, especially in the crazy circumstance they're in that you already just think is bonkers. But it tells a humanistic, a human nature-centered story that I think so many people could relate to, and that's really why it holds up so well.
Yeah.
It's so
today
good.
I don't think a film like this would ever be made, because who would have thought that a woman would like to have a man that leads. Yeah, and takes charge and makes decisions, and that's...
Oh, the moment that they like even mention the fact, I mean, when he goes to their apartment and it's like they're all kind of closed off, and she's like, you want to go to the Winchester? Like, why the hell are we going there? And then even when they're like willing to go along with it, once they all break out, he's the one leading the charge, and they're just kind of like scaredly like behind him.
Yeah.
And also I love juxtaposed against the one guy who really doesn't seem to be much of a man at all, and he's, when he's held up with his back against the wall, he takes the coward's way out, and he's willing to, I don't want to spoil too much. I mean, it's a 20-year-old movie.
Yeah.
Hopefully you've already seen it. But basically, he ends up being, a big, I don't want to say the P word, but that's what he is.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, yeah. I mean, and even the comedic moments, like I said, I mentioned in the review, something like how gags are set up and set pieces are set up. Like I mentioned the open door, which was funny, but even like the bullets on the bar, when you see him physically sit them down on the bar, and then later when it's catching fire and he's like, where are the shells? And then what happens, and there, or even the jukebox where earlier in the film when he's sad and it's playing a song, he's like, turn it off, he's like, oh, it's stuck or whatever.
It's on random.
And then later that comes back. It's like the callbacks and foreshadowing are all set up so well.
The front door.
And like I said, and it's all done like without overemphasizing. I feel like comedies now would be like, make sure you notice this. Are you noticing this? This is going to come up later and be funny. Make sure you see it. Yeah. And I hate that. It's just
you don't do something funny with that by the end of the show.
That's right. Yeah.
You better foreshadow.
I don't know.
And
We'll see.
And now
it'll probably fall off later.
The trio of Wright and Simon Pegg and Nick Frost, they've done this film, they've done Hot Fuzz and World's End, and it's kind of like a trilogy that they had.
They call it it's some type of ice cream, like Cornello trilogy or something.
Yeah. But Simon Pegg and Nick Frost have a chemistry in this film, and they do in Hot Fuzz too. If you haven't seen Hot Fuzz, that movie's amazing.
Oh yeah, I like all three of them. They're funny.
And that's another film like this where it has those callbacks from the beginning of the film, and they don't have to blatantly just show you what's going on and drop these breadcrumbs. It's pretty well put together, but
it has stories. Good stories are.
Yes, yeah.
They leave a trail of breadcrumbs that are believable, that you can follow along. And again, they don't not only treat you like you're stupid, but when they come back, when there is a callback or it comes back in the story, it seems clever.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, okay, this wasn't just blindly placed or
You
blindly
don't see that a lot with
referenced.
comedies.
Yeah.
No.
Unfortunately, I think comedies are just kind of like they rely on the jokes and they rely on these funny conversations and things like that. But yeah, they don't rely on really good storytelling.
Yep.
Whereas these movies, carry both.
Yeah.
They have the good storytelling, but they're also very well, they're funny. So I don't know. I love the chemistry that him and Nick Frost have. And I even like, again, not to spoil it, but I like Frost's end in the film. I thought it's a comedic end, but before the comedic end, he gets the chance to be, more than just a couch potato.
Yeah.
And so I like that. It's like you even give that guy a little bit of
A redemption.
redemption. Yeah.
And no, you're 100% right, because now they'd either do one of two things. The person is a flatline character and they never get a redemption arc and they're just a deadbeat.
Yeah.
Yep.
Or, and that's usually reserved for the main character, or it's such a radical change that it's not believable at all. Because even his redemptive arc is one little notion of, this one thing he can do. It's Edie over.
I thought somebody was knocking on the door.
No.
I could feel that through the floor. So I was like,
She's
what in the world?
80. Stop. She's going after her sore that she's not supposed to.
okay.
Yeah, you're
I
not
thought
supposed
maybe we forgot something over at Brian's. He
No.
was
Like
like,
banging on the door.
Brian can wait.
Maybe it's zombies at the front door.
Brian just went. Now he would knock on the window. Seriously, but hey, fellas, that's what Brian would do. Wouldn't he?
There's a zombie out in the front yard.
He's like, oh,
so you lift the blinds and you see them all and you just
Yeah.
pull the blinds back down. It's
Yeah,
like, nope.
just hide it. Yeah.
hey, quick shout out to Brian. Last year when we
Brian.
had our Halloween special, behind the scenes secrets, he was the one outside filming. How about that?
Yeah.
Thanks,
About it.
Brian.
He did good.
He did good.
You done good, Brian.
But no,
Dog.
I really did. I mean, if there was one small criticism I could point out about the film, I would say there were two major emotional moments that, and I don't know if it's more a cultural thing in terms of it being British than, or maybe it was just because it is a comedy and he didn't want to drag the movie down. But the two scenes I'm thinking of are Bill Nye's scene, kind of where they have a heart-to-heart in the car.
Yeah.
It's a little bit rushed, and of course the other major one with his mom.
Yeah.
That also I feel like it's not rushed. There doesn't seem to be any kind of. I mean, there is reluctance there, and I get it in the circumstance. It doesn't leave room to really, I think, showcase how traumatizing that would be, regardless of
your parents. Yeah.
right. And so, especially knowing the relationship he has with his mother throughout the film and how impactful it is that he's really close to her. And so I don't know. Those are the only two minor gripes that I have, which would keep it from being like a flawless film.
Yeah.
But other than that, like all of the story beats, all of the moments that it really chooses to focus on, that like you said, even some of the smaller relationships of the film, like their roommate who gets on him for not leaving the door open or for leaving the front door open. For him to even have a moment where he comes back, it's hilarious.
It is hilarious.
It's funny because it's just like, okay, there is.
I love the scene in the bars. Look who it is.
Yeah, it's so good.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That and the little stuff always cracks me up, especially the stuff that you notice upon rewatch, because just like when he's walking through the streets the first time haphazardly and not paying attention to what's going on and everybody's doing their lives around them. And then the second time when it's zombies, I love the bum. Like the first time, and the bum as a zombie still got his hand out.
Yeah.
I'm just sitting here cracking
Once a beggar, always a beggar.
I always love the
Yeah.
Coke thing too, because in the
Yes.
first go around he grabs a regular. He looks at a Diet Coke, puts it back, grabs
Puts
a
it back,
regular
yeah.
Coke.
I do think it's also
Yeah.
funny because in that same scene, even when he gets the Diet Coke, he still gets an ice cream.
Yes,
So it's like he's
Yes.
still gonna have his ice cream.
Yes.
but at least he chose a Diet Coke.
And the second time he chooses the Diet Coke, but still gets an ice cream. Yeah, I love it.
and also I do love there was the one scene where they hit the one guy, and it's like it still hasn't sunk in that they're like zombies. And
Oh, yeah.
they back up and he's like, is he okay? And they're like, well, I mean, he's dead either way. And it's just like, again, it's the stupidest little humor.
Yeah.
But it's so funny, and you don't get that now. It's either way too obvious or so ridiculously over the top that it's just like, okay, you told the punchline. Like,
Yeah.
Well, most of the comedies today, the jokes fall flat.
Yeah.
And don't really leave you laughing or talking about them later.
They're too
And
contrived.
Yeah.
They're too much of a, you're supposed to laugh here.
They're either too contrived or they explain the joke too much. They're like, oh, this is why this is funny, and like rather than just let the joke breathe.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, because then you're stuck in the like situation of like, okay, I mean, and I always hate the nervous chuckle of when people laugh, like, see, like I'm supposed to laugh. I'm like, no, you're supposed to laugh if it's funny.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to laugh because you secretly think the
think it's supposed to
director
be
or
funny.
somebody, the makers of the film, are in the room with you and they want you to laugh now.
Yeah.
Like, screw that. No, like genuinely entertain me, and that's what this movie did. So it's funny that we're going back in time again to movies where we're like, man, it's been a decade since we've actually gotten this. Surprise, surprise.
Sad. It's sad.
It is. It seemed like they were more frequent, and maybe that'll kind of tie into our headline discussion tonight. Let's get into our headlines. Why don't we? I don't know if I'm going to do it out of order.
Oh no.
Yeah. Let's start with number 2. Let's do it. Let's start with number 2, just because.
I don't want to.
Why not?
Because I think it's disrespectful that you want to talk about his next film, but we haven't mentioned that Ridley Scott also is
Actually,
working on it.
it's funny because I haven't added that in the
No,
headlines.
you're fine. I just wanted to.
But I was going to mention that too.
I figured we would. I just think it's funny that, for those who don't know, Ridley Scott has now gotten 8 pages written of Gladiator 3. So
And the second movie is not even in theaters yet.
No. But it's done. It's going to be
this year,
so good
It's going to be amazing.
that we definitely are going to want a third one. I mean, never mind the last 2 of his films have flopped, but hey, we're definitely going to get a third Gladiator, no doubt.
Oh, yeah.
This one's going to succeed. But yeah, that's quickly why we're going to move on from that and talk about Nolan's next film, because it was just a little bit of a tease. Mentioned this past week on the interwebs,
I'm
releasing
looking forward to it.
his next film with Universal, since he's parted ways from WB,
Yeah.
set to star Matt Damon.
Of course.
Matt Damon.
Yeah, he's been loving himself some Matt Damon lately.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I mean, here's the thing. He's not really done... Matt Damon hasn't been in a lead role in one of his films, has he?
No,
He's
no.
only ever... Like, Interstellar's the only one I think of him in. What else is
He was
he?
in
Oppenheimer.
Oppenheimer. He had a
that's
pretty
true.
big role
Yeah,
in
he had a big
Oppenheimer,
role
not
in
a lead role,
Oppenheimer, but yeah.
That's true.
Yeah, Interstellar was one of those when if you didn't see him in the trailer.
No, it
so
was
you
a
went to
surprise.
the you went
Yeah,
to the
it was-
film
it
and
was a
saw
surprise,
It. Yeah,
yeah.
I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
And I think he did that intentionally.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Dr.
Yeah.
Man.
Now he's announcing it.
Yeah.
Matt Damon's
It's
going to
like,
be
we
in
got
that movie.
Matt Damon.
Yeah.
Set to release in 2026. We have no clue what this movie's about. But of course, because it's Nolan and him even throwing Damon's name in there, and you're just like, after Oppenheimer, after winning Best Picture, oh, all right, we're already tuned in. What's next? And I do think it is funny because I don't remember if it was in the same article or if I just read this somewhere else. But apparently, WB was trying to court him back because they lost so much money on Joker 2. It's going to end up being like a $200 million loss
it was
for them.
Garbage. They deserve it.
Everything they made from the first Joker movie has been wiped out
Yeah.
by the flop of the second film, which is just incredible.
That is insane.
That's
the gamble.
insane amounts of money.
Yeah.
So it was so interesting that they were trying to win Nolan back. And for those who don't remember, back when Tenet was released, that was the last film that Nolan did with WB.
They put it straight to Max, yeah.
Straight to Max. Well, they brought it out in theaters.
It did have it
but
both.
when
It
it
did
flopped,
simultaneous, yeah.
simply because it was the first movie to try to get people back in the theaters right after COVID, and they only kept it in there for, I think, like 30 days.
Yeah.
And Nolan was pissed and basically was like, all right, you didn't have faith in my movie. You didn't have faith in actually releasing it when you thought it would do well.
Yes.
I'm done with my relationship with you. Like, I'd done all the movies I was assigned to do. I'm moving on. And, of course, then he went and made Best Picture winner Oppenheimer as his first film with Universal. So you could tell WB was probably licking their wounds a little bit. But I do find it interesting that even they were trying to court him by trying to give him, I think, they were wanting to re-release Tenet. They even did. They did that like back in 21 or 22. They re-released Tenet.
They did?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It had
yeah.
like a short... like,
Really?
I want to say it was in IMAX. In fact, I think, was it right before Oppenheimer came out?
I'm trying to remember. It was during the strikes, and they were releasing films just to have things to release, like during the strikes and stuff. So I mean, it would have been before Oppenheimer came out. I just don't
And
remember.
I think it was
before.
to generate like buzz for his next film. And I want to say that it was like WB was trying to pursue like
that'd be interesting that they would generate buzz for a film that they weren't producing.
Well, I think it was to try to win him back in their good graces.
Oh, well.
And it didn't work.
No,
because now he's sticking with Universal for his next
not
film.
a good movie either, by the way.
No.
Tenet was not one of Nolan's best works.
It wasn't. I would agree.
Actually, it's my least favorite of his,
yeah.
honestly.
Agreed. And I mean, that's why, and even it's sad because Oppenheimer, as controversial as this may seem, and we've talked about it on the show, I was not a fan of Oppenheimer. I know it won Best Picture. I agreed that I thought it was last year's Best Picture, which shows you how weak the films were last year. I just didn't think it was a great film. It's
I think
okay.
it was a good film, but I don't think it was Christopher Nolan. Like, I don't think it fit his MO. And that was the reason that I think I disliked it, because it didn't give me what I thought Christopher Nolan was going to give me with a new film. He's got an MO. Like, he makes these completely over the top, deep intellectual films, and Tenet, I think, even tried to be that to the point too much. Yes, exactly. Yeah. It was like overload. I'm just too stupid to understand it, kind of like you with Arrival. But
still a terrible movie.
But like Oppenheimer, it didn't feel like Christopher Nolan to me, and so that was the biggest disappointment. But other than that, if it was straightforward, it was a good. It wasn't a biopic, but I mean,
and that's the weird thing. It straddled that line.
Yeah,
it was okay, but I felt like it was too. There wasn't enough meat there for me. I mean, again, like you said, he's very grandiose in the stories he tells, but so much of it depends on certain smaller, intimate moments for characters I don't know. For it to be a historical figure, and for them, I think a lot of it was overselling the natural effects of them doing the atomic explosion.
Yeah,
and it was just so underwhelming by the time it happens in the movie. I just didn't feel the weight of what the movie was speaking. I got it in terms of the message he was telling me it was supposed to be about. Totally understood that. It wasn't the same as whether it is Interstellar, when they're freaking going through a black hole, when they are approaching a planet, or the wormhole even, when it's Inception, whenever they're, they fall off of the bridge, and it's all the moments of the trigger when they're in the elevator, and it's like all of these moments lining up. Like, there's always these thematic moments. I mean, heck, Dark Knight.
Yeah.
I mean, just the Joker's performance throughout that whole movie, but there's just moments where, again, they are done in such a way that only Nolan really seems to be able to sell on that big screen. And I just didn't feel that as much with Oppenheimer.
Yeah.
There were moments and instances, but as a whole, I just felt like it was lackluster.
Yeah, it's kind of I struggle with that film because I feel like it was the most interesting, boring movie I've ever seen. Like that, and I don't know how to equate that, but it was interesting. If I was sitting at home watching a documentary about that, and that was what I was watching, was that documentary, actually, it would be so interesting. But the movie was boring.
Yeah,
like
I almost 100% agree, because I mean, like even the side story with Robert Downey Jr., and I was just like,
it piqued my interest, but again, I'm just like,
and there were times where I was riveted in the scene itself, but as the movie was building and the politicking that was going on, whether it was him being questioned by the Americans and his association with the Germans or the Russians, and the commies, and then also when it comes to the Senate trial for Robert Downey Jr.'s character, there were just so many other nuanced things that I was like, I thought I was getting a movie about the bomb. Like, I kind of wanted to be more nerded out about the physics of the movie rather than just being told, this is amazing. Yeah. You should know it's amazing because we're telling you it's amazing.
So what do you think his 2026 film is going to be? Is it going to be another Boar Fest, or is it going to be...
I definitely think it's original.
Yeah.
I think it'll be an original flick. I don't think we're going to get another biopic.
Another mind-bending film.
Maybe. I don't know. I mean, he does different stuff, so that's one thing I like Nolan, is he has a unique style, but I feel like you have like Prestige, Batman, Inception, Dark Knight, Interstellar, then Dark Knight Rises, Dunkirk. It's like he has a nice array of... They're all within, like, again, a similar MO in how he makes the films, but I also like the fact that they are unique also in that they're not always, like, the same genre. So
that's true.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess that's one of the things I kind of associate Nolan with is him really testing your mind.
Yeah.
Like, I mean,
Yeah.
even the Batman trilogy that he did, the
Yeah,
Dark Knight trilogy,
there's deep themes in those.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
deep
Oh,
thoughts there.
absolutely.
It's not
even
just a superhero
Dunkirk
movie.
is more than just like the way he utilizes time.
Yeah,
it
and
was great.
I
Well,
didn't
that
get
used-
that the first time.
And I thought that was going to be kind of the interesting. I mean, that was kind of the one trick pony that we thought Nolan was for a while. I was like, oh, it's going to be something with time again. Whether it was Inception, Dunkirk, or even when it went to Interstellar a little bit. Yeah. But it's like, no, you're right, because it's like he takes these things that you think are going to be mundane and he makes them serious. Like, oh, we're going to get a comic book hero, but this is going to be set in a very down-to-earth, realistic type world.
Yep.
That's what Batman is. We can do that with him. We're going to, if you thought magic was just some cheap plot or, trick up, a magician's sleeve just to entertain you for cheap sake, we're going to make a riveting story around the lives of magicians. I thought that was, especially at the time period. I mean, Memento, again, dealing with time, but the way in which the story is structured, he has a way of approaching any kind of story and saying, well, I'm going to put my Nolan twist on it, but I also want to tell something that, again, I think that's why Oppenheimer was a miss for me, because it was a historical figure. And regardless of what he was trying to sell you on his motivations or how you should feel about Oppenheimer, the reason I can walk away from those other movies before that were because these were all original characters where everything I needed to know about them and their motivations and their character flaws and their actions throughout the film and the emotions I should have for them, I learned throughout the film. I followed them throughout the film. I mean, it's heartbreaking when you see Matthew McConaughey go in there and get a video, and the last time he saw his daughter was a week in his time.
Yeah.
And yet it was freaking, it's been 30 years, and now his daughter is a freaking grown woman.
And she's missed out on her father and lets him know it.
Yes.
In the video. It's like, wow.
And he realizes
rips
in
his
that
heart out.
moment, what he thought wasn't going to be a big deal just changed everything about his life and what his motivations are.
Well, that's what lacked for me with Oppenheimer, was the fact that when you look at all of Nolan's films and how he uses the themes to form the story in a unique way, and form the set pieces in a unique way, Oppenheimer doesn't really have any of that. He makes a big deal about the fission and the fusion, and which are part of the themes, but he doesn't really utilize those in any way that's unique in the film. And it's just more of other than a few unique moments and the visuals for when he sets off the blast, the movie is really one of Nolan's most straightforward and just kind of dull. Like, there's not a lot of uniqueness
the most
there.
I like the way Shaun put it, the most interesting, boring movie.
Yeah. I mean, because the subject matter is interesting, and I mean, from a technical aspect, Nolan is a great filmmaker. So even the cinematography and the direction,
honestly,
the performances,
are top notch.
The music.
Yeah.
I watched a video. I was so riveted by it. It's one of the first movies that is scored not by I forget who he usually goes with Hans Zimmer. But I even forget this guy's name because it was like his first theatrical score, and he was breaking down how he wanted to throw in that ticking of and he breaks it down into how, and he even said he came up with the composition on the computer first to show, to hear what it would sound like and how it sounded. And then they were just like, well, we'll have to do it through computer. There's no way real people can play this. And he was like, no, I think there is. And he he basically designed a metronome to go like a beat before in their headphones so they'd play on a certain cue and they wouldn't be early, but they'd be right on cue. And it just, the way it all times, and it's like real, when you realize after you're listening to it, it's real people playing it in this weird time measurement that changes consistently. It's just incredible. And it's like that kind of stuff intrigued me more than the film.
Than the movie,
and I'm sitting here and I'm just like, this was an amazing piece of art that was portrayed in this movie that kind of, you hear it and you feel it, and a lot of people get...
Composer's name is Ludwig Göransson.
Okay.
I was curious because you'd said it was his first theatrical film.
Is it? Am I wrong on that?
No. I was just curious to see if he had done anything like... Because he does have some TV composition. Like, that's what I was looking at to see if he'd done anything
more theatrical,
outside of. Oh no, he did Tenet. So he did do Tenet before.
Oh, I didn't know he did Tenet.
Yeah.
Okay. Which is funny because I don't think Tenet's is that strong.
No.
I think it's kind of under. Which in maybe
he went to him for Tenet because
of
Hans
Universal.
Hans Zimmer was doing Dune. He turned Nolan down because actually we talked about that.
Yeah,
it was Nolan's first film without Zimmer because Zimmer turned him down to do Dune.
I thought it would maybe have been like, Warner Brothers had Hans Zimmer locked up, but that makes more sense.
He also was The Mandalorian, which does have, like, in that regard, I'll say he
maybe that's why he picked him up.
He mimicked John Williams pretty good as far as Star Wars score, because the Mandalorian score is not. I mean, out of the things that are bad in the show, it's not the score.
Yeah.
No. Well, and it has that iconic theme.
Yes. Yeah.
But no, I mean, we're obviously intrigued. We'll be keeping our ear to the ground to figure out what's coming from Nolan next. 2026 is a little ways away, but hey, it'll be here before you know it. So yeah, let's talk about that main headline right off the top, which, yes, there's a new clown in town. Mr. Terrifier 3 took over the box office. What's sad is that it not only whooped Joker 2, but Joker 2 in its second weekend,
it dropped bad.
It made as much as Beetlejuice in its sixth weekend.
Yeah.
That's how bad. A 90% drop for Joker 2. That is abysmal.
And I was looking at the box office. I want to say it was pretty low, like 5th place. I have to pull it back up.
Oh, Joker?
Yeah.
It was. I think it was. I think it edged out. I think it barely beat Beetlejuice, because Beetlejuice came in 6th, but it came in around the same amount.
Okay. For this past weekend,
I'm not sure.
The 11th through the 14th. Okay, Beetlejuice was actually 3rd. Joker,
oh wow!
Joker came in 4th.
So it did.
It
fell below it.
Pharrell Williams, Piece by Piece, was 5th. So its opening weekend, it bombed too.
Which, look, and
I'm not surprised.
Pharrell was trying to go for a niche crowd of like, oh, kids will go see this because it's Legos, and it's like, dude, it's your life story. Nobody cares.
Nobody cares.
Nobody
sorry,
cares.
No,
That's like Legos don't make it better.
No. In fact, it makes it worse, because then parents, like, who may give a crap if they know your music, are like, well, why the hell's he a Lego?
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know. But all right, so that one came in 5th. What was number 1? It was Terrifier 3.
Terrifier 3 was 1. 2 was The Wild Robot. And then it was Beetlejuice, Joker, Piece by Piece. That was the top 5.
So Joker 2 in its second week slipped all the way to number 4.
The Apprentice came in at number 10, so good for it.
Yeah.
Horror Story.
I love the fact that I saw it wasn't even a review. It was just it bombed hard.
It didn't even do as well as Matt Walsh. Awesome.
That's right.
Yeah.
Am I Racist ended up coming in and beating, again, top highest grossing documentary of the last decade.
Yeah.
And the fact that it came out
as
in the
far
top
as
5.
opening weekend. Obviously, it's got more than it this weekend because it's been out so long. But yeah.
But that so I mean, here's the weird thing.
The re-release of A Nightmare Before Christmas did more than The Apprentice.
Oh my gosh!
The re-release of that came in number 9.
Yeah, that's great.
Well, again, think about this.
I love it. I'm just saying.
No, you're right. Yeah. You're right, because here's the thing. This is what is so insane about. I mean, again, this is why you could even joke on Warner Brothers losing as much as they did.
Yeah.
With Joker 2, whether it was the fact that they didn't hold Todd Phillips to any sort of standard. They said, "Hey, you've done so well with the first one. Here's a blank check. We're not going to test screen anything because you fought hard against it. We're going to give you whatever you want, whatever the blank slate is, you fill it, and we're gonna put it out." Mm-hmm. And I'm sorry, but this is what you get.
Yeah.
You're gonna get your Hollywood egos that come out and produce something like The Apprentice, where it's just a Trump hit piece. Nobody freaking cares.
No, nobody went out and supported that
he's
movie.
He's been president before for 4 years. We've had 4 years of Biden/Harris, and now he's up for re-election, and you think you're going to put out a hit on this guy, no pun intended, because we actually know that's something happening these days, unfortunately. But it's like you literally have instances where, like, what you already know everything about Trump.
Yeah.
Whether it's good or bad, whatever light you want to paint him in, whether you're a fan or not a fan, he is set in stone. Yeah. There's no other surprises around the corner. So the fact that you're willing to come out with a movie that you think is somehow going to be, I mean, it's like, I literally think of that movie from way back. It's Forgotten, and I never watched it. But
Forgotten Silver.
Forgotten. Oh, that's a great movie.
Sorry, let's go ahead.
Talk about a movie that needs to be. You can only buy it on DVD, and it's like $40 because it's international.
I bet I could get it on Plex.
Yeah.
What is it?
Forgotten Silver.
Oh, okay.
Peter Jackson's mockumentary.
Okay.
Yeah.
But no, the movie I'm thinking of is I think it's Josh Brolin played George W. Bush.
Oh yeah.
In a movie by Oliver Stone.
It was called W.
It's called W.
Yeah.
Oliver,
that did better than this did.
I don't know. I mean,
no, it wasn't a success. I don't think it was a huge success, but I mean, at least I'm pretty sure it did better than 10th. Like, it had some. I remember hearing about it more than this.
Because the only other one that I could think possibly might have done. I mean, they've all been hit pieces, of course, from one side of the aisle. You had Vice.
The Vice is the
and that's of course
that
coming
was Academy
from
Award winning or
nominated.
Yeah. That one was a piece of poo.
I don't know.
Bale won.
Did he win?
Yeah, he won for that.
I don't remember. I know it was also nominated for Best Picture.
Because he gave the speech. He was like, "This is a film that was literally about the devil." Or I had to channel. Remember, he said I had to channel Satan to play this role, to play Dick Cheney.
See, wait, was that at the Golden Globes though?
Oh,
I can't remember if he won the Globe, but he didn't win the Oscar. I don't remember.
I just think it's funny to me that because they release The Nightmare Before Christmas every year around Halloween. That's just an annual thing they do, and the fact that it's in 9th place this year shows you how bad films have come. That an annual released film actually popped into the top 10 this year.
Yep. No, you're right. That's slim pickings at the theater. If you're going these days.
It's kind of funny that we're talking about Terrifier 3 versus the Joker, and but the actor, I had seen it on Reddit, and I just pulled up the article that they were talking
Art
about.
the Clown,
But the guy that plays Art the Clown said the Joker's his favorite character, and he wants to. Yeah. He would love to play the Joker in James Gunn's DCU.
Now, look, for one, the Joker needs to go away. We don't need any more Joker movies. I'm done with that character. There's plenty of other baddies in the Batman universe. Let's focus on them. Even I was ticked at the Batman and Riddler. I didn't think they did the Riddler justice. I thought it was a poor version of him. I thought he could have been way more intricate and way more intriguing.
About Matt Reeves, the Batman? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And so I thought they ruined that. And also I think the only reason they went with the Riddler was because it was loosely tied to that Joker type character.
Well, I think it was a Batman villain that hasn't been done anytime
since Jim Carrey.
It was a character that hadn't really been properly done, and I mean, I agree that I wouldn't say Matt Reeves really properly did it either, but within the setting of the even more realistic Batman that I think Nolan created, I get why they went with Riddler for that film, because he was emphasizing the detective aspect of his Batman, which is something that hadn't been done on film a whole lot. So he wanted to have we'll have the Riddler leaving clues and Batman solving crimes.
Be somebody
Except that the riddles or the clues being left behind, again,
they weren't particularly
they weren't well done or creative.
Christian Bale won the Golden Globe. I did look that up.
Okay, got it.
But you're right, because I do remember him giving that speech too when he won.
Yeah.
Which, and again, that just goes along with, I'm surprised that this Apprentice movie wasn't directed by, he did.
It was more of an indie.
It was.
Made, Briarcliff Entertainment. I don't know who that is.
Who did? Because he did all the comedies, Talladega Nights.
Oh yeah, Adam McKay. That's who did Vice.
Talk about a sellout.
Yeah,
man.
He made great
after
comedies.
The Big Short, and Big Short was good. I didn't mind that. That was a good movie. It was a little bit more. It was even-handed in terms of describing
it wasn't as obviously you could tell, I think, which way he leans politically, but the movie itself wasn't.
But let's just put it in. Let's put it in frame of reference, and this is why Hollywood is when you're so focused on being such a sign of the times, as opposed to really forward thinking and thinking universally, which is what your messages should be in your films that you try to produce. The fact that Dick Cheney is now promoting and campaigning for Kamala Harris. And yet they made a movie called Vice in which Christian Bale says he had to channel the devil to play him, and now he's on your side.
Yep.
So
they love Dick Cheney now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Have at it. It's like it's one big cesspool is all it is, and it's just, again, the uniparty taking over everything.
And
they see this. I mean, that's why it doesn't surprise me it fell in 10.
This is what's so sad. Anchorman, Talladega Nights, Step Brothers, The Other Guys. 4 movies, one right after the other.
Hilarious and great.
All hilarious,
memorable
and great.
movies, yeah.
And then, he did Anchorman 2, which wasn't so good. And then he did...
That was the fall off.
Yeah. And that was the first one. That one was bad. But then after that was The Big Short. And then he's not done anything great since then.
Well, he got his calling card.
Yeah.
He not only made it huge with that one and was nominated for Best Picture, it was immediately like, my films have got to fit this mold now.
It makes me feel like his heart wasn't in Anchorman 2 already at that point. He was already thinking about, I want to be this guy.
I don't want to make these silly comedies.
Yes,
Exactly.
And then he went to The Big Short, which was good, but then after that...
It was a one-trick pony. Because then you watch any of his other films and they all mimic the same style.
After that was Vice and then Don't Look Up, which was terrible.
Oh, yeah. And they all do the same exact crap, where they stop in the middle of the frame and they start talking to you. It's just stupid. It's like, all right, we've seen this before. It's like going to see a Michael Moore film. You've seen one, you've seen them all. and they're just not particularly interesting. And again, they're so stuck in the times that they're made, they don't have any life after the fact. And I think this is part of the reason why, like you said, when you see something like The Nightmare Before Christmas come out and it's an annual release theatrically and it cracks the top 10, it shows you what the poor outreach. I mean, this is kind of what's sad is when you think about A New Clown in Town and the fact that, Terrifier 3, this body horror torture porn film that is on its third entry and literally is only being, it's only had a claim for being more outlandish and trying to gross out its audience than the last entry, and yet it's coming in at number 1 in the box office.
It's middle of October. I mean, literally the exact middle of October, and the best they have is Terrifier 3,
which is it's funny too because it's set in Christmas. Yeah, it's the first of the 3 movies that's set.
I saw him
Christmas.
with the Santa Claus suit on, so I was kind of curious about that. But yeah.
Well, now they're just stretching it, just like Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
With the last year when that was Eli Roth.
Yes.
Of course, that's getting a sequel.
Well, that was based on his commercial for the Grind, like when he did the Grindhouse fake trailers, and he just made it into a real movie.
That actually just popped up on a streaming service. I think it was on Prime.
Grindhouse or Thanksgiving?
Thanksgiving.
Oh, okay.
But
it got good reviews. I'm kind of curious about checking it out. One day.
To me, I don't know. There's only so much nuance those films can have.
Oh yeah.
That before I'm just like, okay, scene 1, seen them all.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm trying to finish all of them, but I've picked up where I left off last year in terms of Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street, and like I'm about 90% through Friday the 13th: A New Beginning, and I started this year on number 4, the final chapter, which obviously wasn't
not
the final chapter.
Yeah.
But it's just funny because
that's because there was a new beginning.
Well, of course. And then a number 6 and a number 7 and then an 8.
6 is Jason Lives.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, I'm even on the 5th entry, and I'm just like, how many more like nameless bodies can you just throw into the? And the thing is like
it's not going to get any better.
No, I know. And here I am watching it because I just it's that funny thing of knowing that when they came out, it was like, oh yeah, it's just something to do.
Yeah.
And you kind of get that. You're it's like, okay, this is a dumb teenage flick where the kids just wanted to go to the theater and probably take the boys, guys want to take their girlfriends.
It was a fun scare for, horror. And again, you didn't have like them producing 600 things for streaming services.
True.
So they was like, okay, we want to watch something scary. Let's go watch Friday the 13th.
But at least, like, I think what really irritates me is, at least you could sit there and by the time you get to a 6th or a 7th, you're rolling your eyes.
Yeah.
But now we're at that point, I feel like modern day and like number 3, like even in a trilogy. And I'm just like, okay, I don't even need 3 of these movies anymore, like Terrifier.
It's like Fast and the Furious.
Fast and the Furious.
There's going to be 11 before it's over.
Yeah.
12 if you count the spinoff.
And I'm just like, at what point do you just realize, like, okay, maybe these, again, those are going to be in the same boat. It's going to be like they were made at a time to just be a popcorn flick for you to go and see another movie.
They were fun
at the
for
theater.
a while, but again, like you said, you wear out your welcome because it's the same shtick over and over.
And even the kills aren't even interesting anymore. Like if there was one thing you could be creative about in these movies, it was like be interesting in how you commit, but they're not even being interesting. That's the one thing about Saw.
Yeah.
It's like at least Saw tried to ratchet up like the ridiculous nature and the intricacy of the trap to the extent that you were kind of intrigued about like how does he get this to work?
Yeah.
And at least in Saw 10, they did a complete subversion and focused on the actual killer and give you this perspective of like a completely new perspective you didn't even think of.
I can promise you that 8, 9, and 10 will be a lot more interesting and unique and fun to watch because that's when it enters into the so ridiculous and bad.
That's what I've heard. I've heard once you hit
Take Manhattan.
Takes Manhattan.
That's 8.
Yeah.
Take Manhattan, and then
10 I know is in space.
Yes.
Yeah.
8 is Take Manhattan. 9 is Jason Goes to Hell, and then 10 is Jason X. So
Yeah, Jason Goes to Hell is pretty good.
yeah. So the last 3
I love
are well. That's what.
But that means I have 2 more movies to get through before I even get to the like really bad ones.
Yeah. I always preferred Nightmare on Elm Street, anyways, just because at least Freddy and
there's only 8 of those.
Yeah. Well, and he's charismatic. So it's fun, like, and he cracks jokes that are all terrible. So he's more fun to watch kill people than Jason, who's just
quiet.
slow and lumbering.
True. Well, and
not scary. At least Michael Myers is still scary.
He walks everywhere, but
Yeah.
he gets there before they do.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how that happens.
He just shows up out of nowhere, too.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
there's times where it's
He
just
can
like,
teleport. Don't you?
Yeah.
Didn't you play the game?
Yeah, in the game he teleports.
it's part of the mythos now.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
that's definitely part of the like his character.
Yeah.
But no, yeah, even Michael Myers, like, no, it's sad because I would say that's even more fractured, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, because
Halloween
at least
1 and 2 are consistent. Then you have a huge guy. 4, 5, and 6 are terrible.
at least
I don't
Friday
care.
the
I've tried
13th
to watch them.
and Nightmare on Elm Street have one solid continuity. Halloween has like 3 or 4 now, so it's just like okay.
And yeah, because even the new ones, it's like
Yeah.
2018's is the only one you could
Listen,
really watch.
you got the like 1 and 2 through like 6 was like the original. Then they retconned it with H2O, and then you have Rob Zombies, and then the new ones retconned. So yeah, that's 4 different continuities for the same franchise.
But I would even argue within those 1 and 2 hold up fine.
oh yeah.
And then other than that, like 2018's, and that's it.
I would still watch all of them over Friday the 13th because Donald Pleasance is again there. You have at least a charismatic character that's
know,
fun to
man.
watch. Like I like watching the last ones.
I was bored with. I think it was. I can't remember if it was Return of Michael Myers, the one where he ends up at the school.
That's the fourth one.
There's just one
Yeah, the
where
Season of the Witch.
I didn't. Yeah,
That's the third one where he's not in.
Yeah.
yeah.
It's just about the mask.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that one's a fun movie. It's a ridiculous movie, but it's a fun movie.
But it's
It just has nothing to do with Michael Myers.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
But ultimately, I'm just like what I don't like about those is like his mask does not look like anything.
Oh.
Even the way he walks, even the way it literally
terribly
it looks like a
done.
cheap imitation. And I mean, even by the time they build up this new kind of trilogy with like 4, 5, and 6, and you get to the curse at number 6, and you have this guy in the trench coat that walks. It's just so bad. It was just so bad. I was like, man, I don't know how in the world they were trying to keep this
They
going.
were bad. That's part of what made him fun, though.
To a degree. I mean, again, there's part of me that's I understand why people find them endearing, and there's another part of me that's like, because I don't have the nostalgia.
Oh yeah,
and
yeah.
I'm just
and,
now
and maybe
seeing
that's
them.
part of it too, because
Yeah.
I grew up watching all of like I used to at my grandmother's.
Oh,
like,
so
on
many
Halloween,
people did.
watch
Yeah.
one like all of them on TV because they aired every year on TV.
Actually, I do remember AMC doing that, and
Yeah.
it was funny because I remember even then though when it got to number 4, I would watch the beginning. I never made it all the way through. I finally made it through last year, and I was like, now I know why I never made it all the way through. Alrighty, well, look, we didn't even talk about Joker 2. That's how
I mean,
forgettable.
yeah,
it
you don't
is.
care
I mean,
about it.
we talked about it enough to talk about how big of a flop it was. So
I'm just
Maybe it's just meant to be one big joke. Maybe that's the art is.
That's what Todd Phillips is. He's hoping people think
Yeah.
about it because here's the thing: what does this bold for his career path? I mean, does another studio trust him with any IP, even if it's an original? Because you can't. Whether he's coming out and saying no, it's not about trolling people. It's not about this. Because even the whole like what the left has been holding up in terms of saying, well, it was his, his right hook against the incels, and those who glommed onto the first movie and touted it, as being positive for that movement. And I'm like, one, I never took that from the first movie.
No, not.
And anybody who did, I think it's really dark.
Yeah.
If you look at it from that
I
perspective.
don't recall this big wave of people idolizing Joker. Like I even mentioned last week how like some people like idolized Walter White in Breaking Bad, and even that I would say was the rare few of
The
just
fringe.
idiots. Yeah, idiots that didn't know any, but like that. And I feel like Joker had even less amount of people idolizing him than the characters that act or the people that actually liked Walter White. So I'm just like, it's weird to me that their big thing is, well, everybody was just like they acted like Joker was the hero and we couldn't have that. And I'm like, I don't recall, like, just because someone was entertained and liked your movie and was fascinated by your villainous character doesn't mean that we respect or idolize that character. I mean, it's really weird, like mindset.
Yeah, I thought it was the most radically different take on the Joker character, who is probably the most popular villain in the Batman storyline
because of how unhinged he is.
It's because he is evil, because it gives the heroes someone to go up against that it's weird. It's like, yeah, like tragic villains can be interesting too. There's nothing wrong with that. But Hollywood wants to make every villain this misunderstood character.
No.
That, it's like, it's not their fault they're
Some
evil.
people are just evil.
But what's funny is, like, when they do make a tragic character, it's like, look at how society treated Arthur Fleck. This is why he's the Joker. And then people feel sorry for him. They're like, well, why are you feeling sorry for the bad guy? Because that's what you wanted. Like,
Yeah, it's true.
It's like you get mad that people
Yeah.
are relating to him when you made him the tragic villain.
You made me feel the way you
Yeah.
wanted me to feel, but now you're pissed.
I just don't get it.
I would agree. And honestly, I don't think this is going to bode well for Phillips overall, because I think with him, one, having Hangover 1, 2, and 3, and yeah, you could argue that those were successful back when they released, and then, of course, Joker was hugely successful. But with such a bomb that this one is, I'm not saying he's never going to make a movie again, but I don't think he's going to be ushered right into being signed up for one. I think it's going to have to breathe clearly before he's ever in the seat again with a big studio and with a big name behind him. And I think it's definitely going to be much harder for him to get done what he wants to do in terms of creating his vision.
Yeah.
He's going to have a lot more strings attached.
I think it'll be him having to come up with an idea that he's going to have to sell to whichever company is willing to fund it. And once he can sell it, it's still going to be like you said, it's going to be a low budget. They're not going to throw him $200 million again.
No.
He'll come up with an idea and they're like, oh yeah, that
And if
might
it's
sell.
and not just Warner Brothers. I don't think any
that's
studio.
what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's not gonna. He's really gonna have to, I think, sell it to whichever studio might be interested. And I think because he did The Hangover and because he did the first Joker, they might be intrigued enough to be like, we take a chance. But it's not going to be like, a multi-million-dollar movie.
I would be willing to bet he'll be back quicker than you think. I mean, that's all we have now. Look at Disney. Disney keeps hiring crap directors.
That's true.
Crap story writers, and it's failure after failure, and they just keep hiring them back. And it's the I had a name on the tip of my tongue.
Kathleen Kennedy.
For her, for one, it's like she doesn't need to be in charge of
why she's still there. Yeah,
not at all. But it's like, we keep seeing these
Taika
bad
Waititi.
films. Taika Waititi was the name. I'm like, look at Thor: Love and Thunder. Horrible freaking movie. Did not do well at all at the box office.
No,
nobody's bought it. Nobody's streaming it. Like, it's one of the lowest streamed Marvel movies on Disney Plus, next to Captain Marvel, or The Marvels is the lowest streamed Marvel film right now. Eternals is streamed more than that. But it's just like, he did great with one film, and they gave him that one. But supposedly, he might be coming back to do the next Thor movie.
Well, I guess
so it's like, good God.
Maybe the bigger question is could always have been. This is always an issue in Hollywood, but it seems like more often now than it has been in the past that, like, you're given a little bit of rope, especially once you garner a certain following. I mean, we think of Taika Waititi. If you really want to go back to when he was messing with Jermaine Clement and
Reese
Brett.
Darby.
Reese Darby.
Brett wasn't in his.
Oh, I'm
in his
sorry.
movies,
Yeah, okay.
Brett McKenzie.
Brett McKenzie. But was he ever involved in like Flight of the Conchords?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I could look. I mean, they are all from New Zealand, so that's how
I know he
each
was in
other.
what We Do in the Shadows.
Yeah. Brett Jermaine was in What We Do, Brett McKenzie and Jermaine Clements. Sorry, Jermaine Clements was in
And
What
Bryce
We Do in the
Darby.
Shadows, and
Yeah.
so was I think it's Reese Darby.
Reese Darby.
Yeah,
But it's like, you see them climb up through the ranks. They're earning their stripes. They're showcasing they have the talent. I mean, I think of Shaun of the Dead with Simon Pegg and Edgar Wright.
Yeah.
And so far with Edgar Wright, the last film I can really remember of his is Baby Driver. I know he's had one since then, but
Last Night in Soho.
Yeah.
Which wasn't
and
as
that
good.
But it wasn't. It was not nearly as out there as, say, Love and Thunder. As Joker 2.
It wasn't
Yeah.
terrible. It was not as good as his other movies.
No, and you're getting this head about these directors, they're getting this head about themselves that once they make a successful film and then they're kind of given the blank check or they're given the free reign to make what they want, well, then they immediately self-center their focus on, well, what do I as a creative vision and an artist want to tell my story and in my way, because now this is going to be uniquely mine. And it come to find out that when you don't have someone who is focused on pleasing, it's not just about pleasing the fans, but pleasing the masses, actually having a critical thought in your head. Again, this is the opposite of Peter Jackson and Lord of the Rings and what shit you get with Rings of Pooh. Sorry, it deserves to be said. But you have literal idiots who want to sit here and say they're protecting Tolkien's work, and it's completely devoid of anything reminiscent of what Tolkien would approve of, let alone what he wrote in his books and in his works. And yet that's what you have being touted as standing on their own. Whereas Peter Jackson's like, how do we remain true to Tolkien, and how do we tell something on film that is a classic, that is timeless, that tells the value? I mean, they took a work of art that they knew was already withstood the test of time through generations, from what was written back during World War II times, and had been passed on and been a great epic fantasy tale. And Peter Jackson's like, how do we stay faithful to that? There's two different mindsets, and I feel like now we have way too many personalities. It's not like Hollywood isn't full of personalities. Obviously they are.
Yeah.
But it's so inundated and festering with people who are just only about themselves, or at least about their mouthpiece, that the moment they get a little bit of freedom, they just have to over amplify what it is they're passionate about, to the extent that they don't care if they destroy their credibility, because it was the right thing to do. And it was for the message, whatever the message is that they want to send. I mean, just like Love and Thunder, it was like it had nothing to do with what came before it. It was Taika Waititi's movie that he wanted to just turn loose on and make it a bumbling joke, and one stupid joke after another. It was terrible. It was absolutely awful. And I just think Hollywood is full of it now. And I think, honestly, you do have the problem of, like we were joking about with the 600 shows in production. I think you have that issue too now of, like, everybody's just kind of like, well, there's so much content out there. I mean, who cares? You know, I mean, at least when you were a part of a blockbuster movie back in the day, it was kind of sold that way because it was a make or break. We needed it. You needed it to be a blockbuster to uphold the rest of the year's sales if there was a flop, or if there were other movies that were kind of indie flicks. And, you know, maybe it was that great indie flick that was kind of tucked away or not known about, or it was unknown until somebody went and saw it, but it was only being made because you had tentpole movies that would do it. Now I feel like everything has to either be a tentpole franchise flick from the studio perspective, or it has to be some self-centered, narcissistic vision that these, you know, artistic creators have to create. And so I don't know. Hollywood really is just festering with these people. It's a disease.
They're devoid of any creativity anymore. And it's funny because you mentioned, like, used to you would make the blockbusters to make smaller movies, but then when you took chances on those movies, like Shaun of the Dead did great. I'm trying to think of what movie we reviewed. 28 Weeks Later, again, $8 million budget, did $20 million box office. It's like, it's funny that they want all these big billion-dollar movies, but they make a lot of money off of the small movies when they're huge hits, just like Blumhouse has done. Yeah. So if they would go back to taking chances on some smaller independent movies and using the blockbusters to fund that, rather than try to make, you know, Marvel, where they were doing 4 movies in a year, which is just, it gets...
But
and you oversaturate the market
even
too.
if you watch Shaun of the Dead, you realize there's a labor of love there.
Oh yeah,
like from Simon Pegg and Edgar Wright, you can tell they put their heart and soul into it.
Yeah.
And I feel like you have that missing now. I mean, every once in a while you get it. Certain indie releases come along, or even certain maybe smaller budget flicks, or even, you know, minor, larger releases that have like a major A-lister in it, but they read the script and they were just like, man, this is a great movie, wonderfully written, like, why not? Let's do it. And it turns out to be a smash hit. It's so few and far between though now, because everything is aimed at, like, oh, well, no, I'm not really going to think about aiming to prove myself here. I should be given this. I'm such a creative visionary. I should just be given the chance and turn it loose, because I'm telling you right now, I'm just, my crap don't stink. And I feel like that's more the personalities that are being ushered
modern
in.
Whereas like you mentioned with Shaun of the Dead, that's a movie that was made to be relatable. You could tell from every aspect of it, like when you're watching it, and you can, because that's an everyday, like, these people are just everyday people. It's made to be relatable and also make fun of, like, the zombie genre.
More movies are made to preach at you.
Yes. Yes.
If they don't have a message that they're trying to preach at you, and if you don't get it, well, then you're the problem. So now the audience has become the antithesis of who you're trying to entertain.
We've seen that with the last few movies like Joker and Megalopolis, or even Ridley Scott, where he's telling people "F you" if you don't like my movie.
Right.
Because again, it's if you don't understand, it's because you're stupid, and that's not my fault. It's like, I'm sorry, it's your fault that you made a movie no one understands. You're the director. That is your fault.
And then they're like, oh yeah, if you don't like it, don't show up and see it. And then you don't show up and see it, and they're like, why is nobody seeing
That's
my
my
movie?
favorite.
Yeah.
That's my favorite. Like Disney, I love that with Disney too. Just like everything they make, like Acolyte. Well, if you don't like it, don't watch it. Acolyte
Well, if
gets
you don't
canceled.
like, it's not if you don't like it. It gets canceled though. Then it's like you didn't like it because you're a bigot
Yes.
and an
Yes.
incel and,
I
all
think
these different
it's
terms.
hilarious
And I'm
though,
like,
because they're just like, if
you
you
told
don't
me
like,
not to watch it.
don't watch it.
Yeah.
Yep. Oh man. So look, this is the way it's going to keep going.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you're going to have Terrifier 3 beating out Joker. Fully ado. More in the future if you continue down this road. It's really this is the turning of the tide. Hollywood can choose to go, the correct way, or it can continue down the road it wants to bankruptcy. And look, that's the way it is, and old Hollywood will have been a thing of the past. And it seems inevitable that we're continuing to head in that direction, and you're getting more and more productions starting outside of the normal Hollywood structure. So let them eat their own.
The big wigs like David Zaslav and Bob Iger and them sitting here scratching their heads like, how did Terrifier 3 make more money than Joker? like they just can't figure it out.
And no, actually, and you're right. You're right. No, that does speak to a bigger truth, I think, overall, which is simply that a lot of these elitist bigwigs, they're so high up on their perch, and they're in an echo chamber.
Yeah.
They only ever listen to people who have either they're ass kissers that they're surrounded by, or they're people who don't want to tell them the cold hard truth.
Yep.
Or they all want to live in their, in their own psychological bubble of what they think needs to be professed from high above.
Yeah.
And so they've reached this upper echelon of, oh, well, we're above them, and we just need to keep this going. And it's like, okay, fine, do it to an early grave.
So they
That's
told us
fine.
that. The makers of The Witcher literally told us we had to change things from the book because we thought American audiences were too stupid to understand it. It's like the same people that read the books and loved the books wouldn't understand the show. Like, it just makes no sense.
I mean, that's a similar comment coming from the people who are writing the Harry Potter show.
Oh, yeah.
For HBO, they flat out said like
didn't
we
wanna read,
didn't
yeah.
want to. I don't want to read the books, so I'm not really wanting to adapt this to the.
I read
Wait a minute now.
I did read, and I have to look into it because I don't know how true it is that J.K. Rowling might have a lawsuit going on there because apparently, like, she is contracted with any adaptation for Harry Potter.
Yeah.
Like when she sold the books,
Good
that
for her to
she
protect
has
her work.
She has final say in any choices made. So if they don't consult her on certain things and she doesn't like it, she can be like, "No, I'm shutting this down."
Basically, just like Henry Cavill loosely had his contract with The Witcher, and look at that show;
Yeah.
it's falling apart.
Yeah.
Since they basically lambasted anything.
So I
hope of that
am
series.
really curious to see how the show turns out because it's like I can imagine it. I don't know. I don't have a lot of faith, but we'll see.
No. Oh, of course not. Any adaptation, especially one who she's received such criticism from the left anyway on Twitter. And I mean, if she's a TERF and she's not in with the crowd,
HBO gave me some hope because of Game of Thrones, but again,
look
it's
at
not
Last of Us.
But it's not the same people doing it. So
and I was saying, and
obviously,
even The Last of Us, you could sit there and say, well, but that was almost like 100% like the game. They just expanded on things. No, if you go back and play the game, there's a lot of moments that are not
it's
done
very
well.
tonally different.
It is.
Yep.
Completely
I
different.
don't think I'm gonna keep. I'm not gonna keep up with that show.
I'm not either.
I don't think
I stopped halfway through the first season.
I never finished it. I got as far as him reuniting with his brother in their communist camp or whatever. Their commune. And
it's interesting because again, it's one of those things where even as I was watching the show, it just recalled moments from the game that I was like, this was done better in the game.
Yeah.
And it's sad because it's like, and I hated The Last of Us Part 2. Like, I played through that one, and I was like, this is a terrible game. And it's funny because I'm like, well, that's the whole second season, and regardless of if they do offshoots or
more, because they're talking about
more,
that,
right?
That the second game might be split into 2 seasons,
and the fact that
they got to drag it out somehow.
Probably going to throw in Left Behind, the DLC.
I actually read a rumor that they might trudge some of the gap in between 1 and 2 for a second season because they don't want to get rid of Joel right away. Like, spoiler alert, sorry.
No, gosh sakes, man. Oh, no.
Yeah.
Nobody knows how.
They don't.
Yeah.
Actually, that's the
I'm
biggest.
just keep hitting that stuff. But yeah. So I'm like, that'd be interesting. They start making crap up between, like, using, Last of Us and other stuff to make a filler second season.
To me, look, games and movies and books, they're all different mediums, and they all have their own strengths and weaknesses. And I'm not saying there's a rightful place for adaptations and for them to be done well, but it just, you set the bar that much higher when one of those mediums is again, this is the rightful criticism of, I think, book purists when it comes to Lord of the Rings. And there are, for some people out there, they will never like the movies because they just love the book so much. I can at least respect that more than, say, someone who's just completely is like, no, this needs to change because the original source is outdated or it's old and we just need to. No, I can't get along with that. Yep. I mean, even Stephen King, who rightfully so, I mean, I disagree with him politically, but the fact that he kind of gives free rein and says, look, any adaptation you want to make, it's not my work anymore. You're adapting it. Make it whatever you want. And you let the audience be the judge of whether it's a good enough story that's to be told. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times I think so much of where his writing helps him and in terms of his characters, I mean, I'd say The Stand is one of those mini series that I can watch, the original one, not the new one that they made a few years ago. It was awful. But that is one movie where I'm like, it's interesting enough in the way the characters are built and in the way the story is told that it's riveting. Mm-hmm. There's other stuff that I feel like has done from a Stephen King novel that I'm like, okay, maybe the novel is good, but the movie isn't anything interesting that I haven't seen before on film.
I feel like King's characters are the epitome of relatable. At least they used to be. I haven't read much of his newer books because I've just kind of been hesitant just because of how he has been lately. But used to, even Under the Dome, which wasn't that long ago. I mean, I guess it's probably been about
10
20
years, probably.
I was say I was going to say closer to 20, maybe.
Really?
Yeah,
the show's not 20 years old.
No, but
I don't know about the book. But
yeah.
It's definitely over 10. It might be less than 15.
I thought it came out when we were after high school.
I think we were in high school when it was out, when it released.
Because that was his first book after the... No,
because that would have been even earlier.
Yeah, I forgot his accident when
his accident, I think, was in 99. I don't want the show. I want the book. But even as I was saying, even that book has a lot of some kind of political characters in nature because of the town. But it always fascinated me that one character, one of the villain is obviously a pastiche for kind of big conservative, but also one of the main characters is also conservative, whereas the other one's Democrat. And it was very interesting how he incorporated some of those political views because Under the Dome was a little bit of a social commentary, but it was very even-handed as compared to now where things would very much be
one-sided.
2009, so it was right after high school. Okay, so
yeah,
about 15 years. So yep. Yeah, but yeah, it was fascinating to me that that's who King used to be. He's always been a big lefty. He was very much the flower child Vietnam protester. Hearts in Atlantis has a lot of that in there, but he never you could relate to all of his characters either way, and he still wrote characters of opposing viewpoints that were good people that you could relate to. They weren't all just, oh well, they have opposing viewpoints so they're evil. And it's Hollywood, Hollywood, a lot of people today, entertainers today, they've lost that. It's no longer about the fact that, we agree to disagree. It's now just, well, if you don't agree with us, you're evil.
Well, which is why we get the profession of we have to change this from the source material, and that's the reason behind it. And I mean,
the source material is outdated.
I was going to say, and the art is going to continue to suffer when that, and vice versa. I mean, this is the reason why we've ridiculed things like God's not dead. It's when your message is front and center above the art, it's going to get overshadowed because it is so poorly communicated. Again, you're choosing a medium to convince your audience of something that it's that's not what is done best by this medium. It's what is done is to convey and evoke emotion in such a way that I am at least, I transcend out of this moment, out of reality. I mean, it's supposed to be an escape. And sometimes that can have social commentary, but sometimes too, it's I just want to be entertained. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't want to be preached at all the time. If I do, then I'll go somewhere else.
They don't like to be preached at. They don't want to be blatantly told what to do. You got to sneak it in there.
Sad, but you're right. All right, I think we're ready to move on to our unique weekly segment. That's right. We're moving. Wait, I think I put the wrong.
I see a unique weekly segment.
I don't know. I think
Vices.
Is it Vices?
Is it supposed to be Vices? I don't
or is it supposed to be relationships? Was relationships last week? I think I put the wrong opener.
What did we do
here.
last week?
Oh God.
I'm going to roll the relationships open, but I can't remember what we did last week. I thought it was supposed to, maybe it is supposed to be
Last week was
Did we talk about
Was this
the
story
movies.
time?
Last week or no?
I
Yeah.
can't remember.
When did we talk about Coke?
Yeah,
we talked about our favorite Coke at one point.
Last week was
that was
story
the last
time
Vices we did.
because we talked about your Halloween that we remembered.
Yeah,
did.
yeah. So
That
it
was
is
last week.
relationships.
story time. Last week was story
Well,
time.
the Vices segment you see on there is not true. It's supposed to be relationships. And while this intro's going, I got to come up with one.
Okay.
Let me tell you about the birds and the bees and the flowers and the trees and the moon up above and a thing called love.
Oh, so we're talking about relationships this week, and the lower third is not going to come up.
I was trying to think of
I
a
had
good relationship
the
topic.
Vices segment. I was ready to go.
Here's the thing: we're gonna have that next week.
Okay.
So keep it because obviously
Okay.
that comes next week.
All right.
work.
And I think I was thinking about this because I know our last multimedia segment, not last, but the next multimedia segment we have is our last go round of our influential
Yeah.
movie picks.
Yes.
And so I think I was getting ahead of myself thinking like, oh crap, that's coming up in like 2 weeks. But that would be like next week if we had the Vices segment.
Yeah.
Now I could flip flop them, but I just didn't have the Vices open.
Yeah, well, we already did relationships.
We did the relationships over. Should we stick with it?
What is our relationship
The relationship
topic?
segment that I'm coming with off the top of my head
Let's do it.
is werewolf, witch, warlock, or let's see, what was it? No. I would say vampire. Of those mythical creatures for Halloween, who would you rather have a relationship with as a friend?
Wow.
I just pulled that out of my ass.
Yes, you did.
Out of
It
nowhere.
stinks. What?
Do
Say
you
it
have,
again.
do you have a candy your significant other likes that you hate, and vice versa? Granted, we don't have significant others. So
No,
I guess that
let's
doesn't work.
not. I'm digging this, but
See?
give it
See?
to me again.
Witch, warlock, werewolf,
It's like
or vampire.
marry or screw her, killer. No,
You're right.
no.
That's what it reminds me of.
Witch, werewolf, warlock, or vampire.
Yep. Which of those would you rather be friends with? I'm not gonna say in a relationship.
Friends with? I don't know.
Which
I have to think about it.
I mean, like, yeah.
I don't know, because I mean, it's something like off the top of my
Yeah,
head.
we
like,
never. Now look,
I
this is
know.
BS because whenever we throw out any of the unique weekly segments, most of the time they're off the cuff. You
They are
guys
off
So
the
think
this
cuff.
is
about
this
it.
is very
Think
much.
about it.
This is very much.
I always have
like,
to think about our unique
human
weekly segments.
humans being, or being human.
Yes.
It's like the show because that's a
I haven't seen
werewolf.
it.
That's a werewolf, a vampire, and a dead person.
Yeah.
Oh,
That are friends.
Zombie,
that are
yeah.
roommates.
I could throw zombie in
Throw
there
zombie in there.
because that would be
Now,
like
it's a
at the-
zombie
zombies.
element.
Zombies
And they try to
stink,
eat you.
and
I mean, at the end
But a
of
vampire
Shaun
can
of the
try to
Dead,
eat you too.
even if you're buddies with him, yeah, but look at him. He still stinks.
and
He's
he
rotten.
did
He's a
try to
rotten
eat
corpse.
him. Try to take a bite out.
Yeah, I
of him.
just
What
don't
did
think you
you
can
said
trust a zombie.
Wolf, vampire.
Warlock. Three W's and a
Witch.
Dracula. And a.
I say
and a-
witch and warlock just go hand in hand.
I
I
know,
feel like
yeah,
it's-
yeah.
They are witch /
Yeah.
warlock.
So I
Okay.
would be friends with a warlock, but
That's
I'd
what
be
I'm
in
saying.
a relationship like
Like
romantically
if you're
with
gonna
a
pick
witch.
one that has magic,
Witches are sexy.
that has
They can be
magic that can
sexy.
get you crap, like Bewitched. It's like, hey,
Yeah.
What if it's an ugly witch with like the big long green nose?
we could
that
be
has a
friends
pimple
if we're
on it?
not. You said if it's not a relationship, and she could still use her magic to get me crap. She could be ugly.
But
That's fine.
he was just saying that she's sexy.
Yeah,
Well,
I'm
if
saying
she's
witches
sexy,
can
then
be
you want to
sexy.
be in a relationship. If she's
Yeah.
not, then she's just your friend that gets you stuff.
If you're talking about like the Wicked Witch of the West, that's not no. There's no
I mean, she's gonna be
relationship
mean to me. I'm
there.
gonna pour a
I'm
bucket
thinking
of
like
water on her.
the witch in the new Wicked movie.
Like
that-
I don't
the
think
green,
she's hot
like
either.
or
The green
what-
black woman.
Yeah.
or what's her
The
name?
green
Or-
black
yeah, green black woman or
The green
Ariana
black woman.
Grande.
The green black woman.
Hey, Ariana
The
Grande
Ariana
used to be
Grande,
Hyundai.
but
Used
she's
to
a
be Hyundai.
but she's
Used
not
to
a
be
witch.
hot.
She's a fairy god or no? What is
She's
she?
a witch. She's the good witch.
That's
isn't
right. She is the
Yeah,
good
she-
witch.
yeah,
yes,
she's-
that witch.
Glinda.
The good
is
witch of the
fine.
north. Yeah,
Yes.
Glinda.
yeah, Glinda the
Glinda.
good. Yeah, she's the
Yeah.
good witch of the north.
And
Northern
which-
witches are way hotter than
Yeah,
West
the
witches.
west and
Agreed.
eastern witches.
And-
Yeah.
And I'll be straight up 100% honest. I don't care what Wicked says. I don't care what new fancy schmancy. Glinda's the good witch.
Yes.
She's the
Yeah.
good witch. The original OG story is the correct one.
Yeah.
Just saying. I just
Yes.
want to put that out there. All you Wicked fans, go on.
I mean, it's really tough because I feel like the zombie is gonna try to eat you or kill you. A vampire is always going to be tempted to bite you.
Well, unless it's like a Twilight vampire and you got Edward glittering over there.
But he's always tempted still. He could give in to temptation.
And even then, though, I would also argue with a vampire, you could theoretically lock them away when you know they're going to turn, which is every night. But
vampires are always vampires.
Yeah, they don't turn.
They don't turn.
But they can't go out.
Werewolves turn.
They can't go out in the sunlight.
They can't go out in the sunlight, but they're still
well, it
vampires
depends.
all
Again,
the
the Twilight vampires can go out in the sunlight.
because they're
going
shimmery.
with traditional like
werewolves.
mythos.
You got to lock up, and before they turn onto full moon.
I would prefer a werewolf.
Well, that's like you
then
get like
you only have to worry about them one
days
time
of
in the
year,
month.
Exactly.
or 29 days
It's like
of the month.
women.
Yeah.
So you could
Actually, technically, werewolves are less threatening than women once a month because women have a whole week. Werewolves just have one night.
That's right.
Well,
and you just gotta stay.
there's
out of
different
their way.
Sometimes they last.
You have like
2 weeks.
the 3-night moon cycle where it's at its fullest on one night, but there's certain mythos where they can turn. Like,
all right, here he goes.
but
He's
that's
going
still
deep.
3. But that's still only 3.
I'm
that's
going
still only
Warlock.
3 days.
Warlock's the
out of
only
month.
one that I don't think is going to try to kill you.
I
all the
kind
time.
of feel like Warlock. He would
That's just the safe bet, though.
Yeah,
but he would kind of put some spells on you and just have some fun. He'd be like a troll. He's just like having fun. He's just over there, put that.
But
in
he can
your
also
drink.
do spells for you.
True.
Werewolves can't do much for you. Vampires
if
can't
they're
really
your real friend, and when they turn, and if they listen, you could just like sick them, and like
sick
go,
them.
Yeah,
I like it.
That'd be neat.
Maybe they let you put them on a leash.
Maybe I was gonna say, and maybe it would be kind of cool that like
Or
you
shock
have a
collar
werewolf that you
or
could like
something.
show people to.
Let the dog show.
Yeah.
Like you could win an award.
This is my werewolf.
Keith, you haven't mentioned one. I've said werewolf. He said warlock.
I'm going with warlock.
We've just literally mentioned, had a whole conversation with you all.
But you just picked.
I said that the witch and warlock can get you stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, you want that one?
Yeah,
Like
You
a
want that one.
genie.
It's just or like Harry Potter. Like they're just just summon me up some
Oh.
crap.
See,
yeah.
he's a wizard. That's different.
Yeah, that's
the same different. No, wizard and
No.
warlock. Yeah,
No.
they're the same thing.
No,
No.
I would disagree.
Yeah,
I would
warlocks
disagree.
are bad
I
usually.
I would say warlocks and witches are a different breed than wizards.
Yeah.
Well, the witches are a wizard. The wizard's a male witch.
No, I would say a warlock.
No,
is
that's
a male
literally
witch.
witch and wizard. Because wizard means actually
Now
it's originally is
Yeah,
wizened.
this is making sense.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think in the
yeah.
Harry Potter world, yes, a witch and a wizard is that's the
same.
male counterpart.
I thought it was
Warlock's
always
just
warlock.
a less
Warlock
common
is
term. I mean, it's a magical. They're kind of interchangeable, or
See,
sorcerer.
this is getting.
He-
Now I'm going witch.
yeah,
I'd like to be in a relationship with a witch.
Hermione. See,
No, she's a wizard.
that's a witch. She's a witch. She's not. Their wizards aren't
She's
female.
Was
technically
she
a
named
witch.
as a witch in the,
Yes,
in the
it's
series?
the school of witchcraft and wizardry
Witchcraft,
because witch is a
yes.
female wizard.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know. I don't
They're
know.
called witches.
Yeah, they
I
do the
think,
same thing. There's only 2 genders of
Yeah,
witches.
I was gonna
There's
say, look, J.K. Rowling set that up in her
you
book.
can't be
That's right.
you can't be a female wizard.
Nope.
But you could be a witch.
You can be a witch.
and
Yeah.
you could be a
There's
male warlock.
There's no witchards. It's
No.
wizards or witches.
yeah.
You could be a witch named. No, you can't be a
He's
witch
gonna
named
Google.
Richard.
He's gonna be like, what's the difference between a
I
witch and a
want to
warlock?
know if there's a huge difference. Yeah.
I do want to know. I want to know the
'Cause I'm
definitional
pretty
difference.
sure
So,
they're basically just
A
synonymous.
witch is just it's a normal person that practices a certain thing, and I'm saying they can't do witchcraft.
No, I'm
but
not
it's
saying
like-
that either.
Yeah.
But it's
I
they're a normal person.
me-
A werewolf's not a normal person. That's a monster, and so is a vampire, and so is a zombie.
But they all
That's
fall
monsters.
in. They all fall into that crowd of I think. I mean, almost like your the mummy and
The mummy's a monster.
Yeah, so a warlock's essentially like a sorcerer. They said it's kind of an in-between between wizard and sorcerer. It's something that was made up more for like D&D and tabletop games. So yeah, wizard would be the male equivalent.
It's weird because when I do say warlock, I immediately think of like a troll. I think of something like underneath a bridge,
Okay.
like
I
more of
don't
a traditional
go-
troll.
I don't go there at all.
Really?
No.
It's just like a
And-
male magic practitioner
Yeah.
or someone like
dark magic.
yeah,
Dresses
dark
in
magic,
black
yes,
and,
yeah.
and
Okay.
does dark
all right.
magic.
I could
yeah.
go with like a staff or something.
A troll is a troll.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm thinking more of like a mythical creature. I guess like in World of Warcraft terms or something. Like a warlock's gonna have some weird looking, like a green impish looking dude.
No.
Not tiny, but kind of like more impish. Yeah, I don't know. That's just what I'm thinking. That's what popped in my head when I said warlock.
Yeah.
All in all,
Yeah.
I said werewolf is my pick. Just because I think
you
it's
like werewolves.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. That's always been the scariest, and I
Yeah.
feel like face your
You
fears.
could do it doggy style.
I wasn't gonna go
If it's
that
a
route.
female werewolf.
No. Even then, like too much hair, and she could rip
You
you
have to
apart.
do it while she is a werewolf.
Yeah. Why would you do that?
Honestly,
That's bestiality.
Yeah.
y'all were talking.
You gotta wait until
all I
it's
said.
She'd
not a
be
werewolf.
human while you do it doggy
Look,
style.
no, even if she's a human, the beast is still in there.
Well, yeah, that's fine.
I still think it's a bestiality. Then I think it's a gray line. I think that I
It's
don't.
a human being, though.
No, it's both. I don't think you could. No, you're not human at that point. You're fully
I
the
don't know.
creature.
I don't think so.
And I think based on tradition, just like in Silver Bullet, you become fully the creature the more you
Like permanently.
Yeah, the more you like consume and the more you give into it. Or is
Yeah, you
the
could
terrible line in the movie is you get wolfier. I hate it.
Wolfier.
Because I thought it was wolf fear.
Yeah.
Wolfier.
Or like I thought it was like a term, and he's like
no. it's
wolfier.
Wolfier.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's a terrible
More
line.
wolf.
But
No.
I don't know. Werewolves have just always been vampires. No, I'd say that's outrule that one, outlaw that one. That's easy
No.
to they're always conniving. They're always
Yes.
backstabbing.
There's no
They're-
trust there.
No, none
You
at
come in
all.
the house and the lights are out. You're
I'm
you're
done.
probably dead.
I'm
yeah.
done. Yeah.
Yeah.
But at least a werewolf, it's like okay, if the chains hold, we're good. I just gotta wait
Yeah.
through the cycle.
Well, again, yeah, it's just
Yeah.
one time a month.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm still going witch.
All right.
Yeah,
Y'all are both on the same page. All right. Hey, you know what? We turned it into a relationship segment.
I just wanted a relationship, like just Hermione. That's it. There we go.
He's like, I just want a relationship. I don't care if it's a witch or
Yeah.
a vampire.
I just
or-
want somebody.
I don't
like-
want to be alone anymore.
I just want somebody to hold
Is
me.
there
during
a dating
Halloween.
app for that? For finding a monster?
You know what? You know what's sad? It would not shock me if you're like, I'm like a werewolf spirit.
I wonder if is there a dating app for furries?
Oh, I'm sure.
For those-
Oh,
those people?
100% there's got to be.
I'm sure.
Guarantee you, yeah.
Like
Pocket Pet or something like that. Was that a toy?
There was,
there a
like,
toy
well, they
called
had-
Pocket Pets
like
or something like that?
I mean, well, it's like
yeah,
you could
Pocket
hit-
Monsters.
No, that's
That's
Pokemon.
Pokemon.
No,
Yeah.
but there was a game called like before Pokemon. There was Pocket like there's
No, there was the
then Pokemon
Tamagotchi.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
what I
I
was
know.
thinking of.
Yeah,
but there was
isn't there
a
Pocket
like,
Pet or something like that.
Polly Pockets.
There was
even.
Polly
I know.
Pocket.
I'm not thinking of Polly Pocket. I thought there was a Pocket Pet. Never mind.
All
maybe
I
it was called
know.
Monsters where I was
in
going
my
with
Po-
that.
It might have been Monsters in My Pocket, but I do remember the game.
Yeah, there was a toy called Monsters in My Pocket.
Yeah, that's
yeah.
that's probably
What
what
if
I
that
was
was the
thinking
tagline though? It's like you want your own Tamagotchi, a real life Tamagotchi.
of. I had a Tamagotchi.
I never
too.
did.
I had the cheap one that McDonald's started selling in there, and the battery died within like a week.
Yes.
But it was
There's
funny.
no
'cause-
way to keep that alive.
And I think they still have the app, but you could straight up get the app.
Oh yeah, you can Tamagotchi on your phone, man.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I did that for like a week in college, and I was like, this is dumb.
Yeah.
Because it's like there was only like 3 or 4 things, and honestly, if I didn't feed
You
the
just
damn
gotta
thing
feed it,
in an hour,
pick up its poop. That's it, man.
but that's what I'm saying. But it was so annoying because the notifications would go off, and if you did not,
Brandon wasn't
it
ready
would
for that
just die.
responsibility until he got a dog. Now he's
No,
ready for
it was
responsibility.
it was way more annoying. Look, they said it's great because they'll teach your kids to be responsible. Heck yeah, well, because that thing had to eat and poop more than my dogs ever have.
Yeah,
Of course.
Like
So-
every 30 minutes or something
Yeah,
stupid like
and
that.
then if you didn't,
Yeah.
like mine died all the time too. And then my parents were like, "See, you don't need a pet." It's,
It's
like, no, I don't need to feed
yeah,
my
your
dog
Tamagotchi
every 30
died
minutes.
because you went to bed.
Yes,
Because you slept
it's like
at
my
night.
my
and
dog
didn't
doesn't
feed
die
it
like
died.
because I didn't feed it in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
Like I don't know.
It'd actually be hilarious if it was just like, well, I'm ready, and then you like feed your dog too much, you're like, well, or your Tamagotchi too much, and it's like, oh, they ballooned, it got fat
Yeah.
and blew
It's
up.
dead.
It's like, yeah, you fed it too much.
Yeah.
Or you start doing that. They're like, you take your dog to the face, like you need to quit feeding it. Well, my Tamagotchi taught me I got to
Great,
feed this
'cause
thing every
that
30
Thanks
minutes.
for watching has just been up there for
It
like
has.
5 minutes.
Yeah.
And
We're
Oh
done,
yeah.
guys.
We're past. Yeah.
We're done.
We're
This is
way
great.
past.
Alrighty, guys, like, share, subscribe. Gosh, thanks, they're all over the place.
Wow.
All of our
Like,
favorite
share.
social media right there at the bottom of your screen. Red Moon Book on Facebook, Red Moon Tweet on X, Red Moon Pics on Instagram, and of course, search for Red Moon Productions on both YouTube and Rumble. Appreciate all the love there. And of course, there is that old-fashioned way. If you're a witch or a warlock, you could just like teleport and the
just,
message right
like,
to it. Bzzz, and we got it.
Abracadabra or whatever
That's
it is.
it. That's it. Lexio, I don't know. I ain't gonna come up with something. Anyway,
Keith's right. He knows all the spells.
he does. He knows.
Oh,
it.
I was just not even I was kind of like, I didn't realize what you were doing with the Alexia. I was thinking like Alexa from Amazon.
Actually, that would be.
That'd be
You can
funny.
do that.
Yeah.
She's magic. She's a
Yeah.
witch.
Yeah.
She is.
Yeah.
Alexa's a witch.
She makes stuff show up on your phone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're going to get
does
tons of
things.
weird costumes after this episode.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can email us at the email address, which happens to be, Keith?
RMPodcast at redmoonproductions.com.
Ooh, if that isn't scary, I don't know what is. Maybe your
I
response
hope it's
will
not
be
scary.
Yeah.
No, it was soothing. Very soothing. As it always is. Until next time, thank you all so much for tuning in. Next week, we got 2 big movies.
Oh, crap.
Yeah, we got 2 reviews. That's right.
Oh, man.
Smile 2 comes out this coming week.
does.
It's a Halloween movie in its own right. It's probably going to end up at number 1 easily. I think
Yeah.
it will dethrone Terrifier 3, and of course, Joker 2's not.
I've seen
it's gone.
early blurbs say it's amazing.
Oh, I forgot to mention.
Gosh.
It already came out October 29th. Joker 2 is on streaming.
Oh, yeah.
So
One-
at the end
one
of the
month.
month.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
insane.
Yeah.
They're like, this movie's bad. Just shove it out the
Whew.
door.
Yeah.
So yeah, but no, we're doing Smile 2, and our next zombie movies. Actually, we kind of all of our zombie movies are different genres.
Yeah.
So we did traditional or new take on horror genre zombie. We did laughing zombie. Now we're doing like
More
action flick.
oriented, yeah.
World War Z.
World War Z.
So
Great
tune
movie.
in next week. Until then, next time, I'm one of your hosts, Brandon Davidson, alongside our normal new host,
Shaun Sebastian.
and
Keith Cheatham.
We hope you enjoyed this week's episode. For more reviews, previous podcast shows, and everything Red Moon, visit our website, redmoonproductions.com. You can also like us on Facebook or follow us on Twitter by searching for Red Moon Productions, LLC. We'll see you at the movies.